Hi King-Chavez Lion Cubs. Today for social studies, I am going to teach you about the three branches of the United States government, why we have the three branches, and what their jobs are. Let's get started. I created a little poster to help you understand the three branches of government. But first you might be wondering, well, what is a government? A government is a group of people that has the power to rule according to the law. And some other things they do is they make the laws, the rules, and the regulations that we have here in the United States. And then they also collect taxes. You might hear your parents talking about having to pay taxes or waiting for their tax return. And they also print money. And we've all seen money. We've been doing money in second grade math as well. So today's learning goal is you will be able to name the three branches of the government and what their jobs are. Government is a really, really long word, so if you want to abbreviate, remember we learned this, abbreviation is a shorter way of writing a word. If you want to abbreviate the word government, since it's so long, you can abbreviate it G-O-V-T instead of writing out the whole word. I created this tree to help you visualize the three, we call it three branches of the government. So the first branch that I have over here is judicial, and they make sure that all the laws are obeyed and that they follow the Constitution. The Constitution is our set of laws here in the United States. And they also judge really big issues. So if it's a really big court case, and they need someone even more important to rule over the case, then that would be this branch. Next up, we have the executive branch. The executive branch is where the president rules. So the president is in charge of the executive branch. He carries out the laws, and he's also the commander-in-chief of the military. So he's the leader of all the military branches that we have here in the United States. Last, we have the legislative branch. There's two parts in this branch. The first one is the Senate, and the second one is the House of Representatives, which is a panel of people. They make the laws, and they have the right to declare war. So you might be wondering to yourself, well, why does the United States have three branches of government? Why can't the president just make all the decisions? Or maybe you think already the president makes all the decisions. That's actually not true. Before we had this government system, when we were ruled by a king, we didn't like that. We didn't like the king being the only one to be able to make decisions. And that's why we became independent and we made up our own government. The three branches, the reason why we have it is so that not one branch can take over. They each share the powers, and they're each in charge of their own responsibilities so that one branch can't take over and become king. So that's why we have three, and they share all the responsibilities, and not one branch has too much power. So if the president decides that he wants to become king, there's the other two branches to say, nope, that's against our Constitution, that's against our laws, that's not going to happen. So that's why we have the three branches. So you all know that I love Brain Pop Jr. So of course, I'm going to show you a Brain Pop Jr. that helps explain the branches of government. Here we go.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. I'm reading from the United States Constitution. What is the U.S. Constitution? Before the United States was a country, there were 13 colonies, which were ruled by the King of Great Britain. The king made most of the decisions about how the colonies were run and how people lived. The founding leaders of the United States did not want one person or group to have too much power, like a king. They created the Constitution, which is a set of laws that explains how the country's government should be organized and run. The Constitution separates the government into 3 branches. Each branch checks the others to make sure there's a balance of power. What is the legislative branch? Congress is the legislative branch, and it creates laws. Citizens elect members of Congress, and they meet in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Congress is made of 2 separate parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each state elects 2 senators. Since there are 50 states, there are 100 members in the Senate. Senators are elected every 6 years. Citizens also elect members to the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives has 435 seats. The number of seats each state gets depends on the population of the state. States with more people get more seats in the House. Representatives are elected every 2 years. The Senate and House work together to create bills and vote on them. A bill is an idea that can be turned into a law. If a bill passes in the House of Representatives and the Senate, the bill gets sent to the President. What is the executive branch? The executive branch is in charge of carrying out laws and approving and recommending new ones. The President of the United States is the head of the executive branch. When the President gets a bill, he or she can approve it and sign it. Then the bill turns into a law. The President can also veto or reject a bill. Then the bill gets sent back to Congress for changes. But Congress can hold another vote to override or rule against the President's veto. The President's veto power and Congress's power to override the veto make sure that one part of the government does not have too much power. It can be a little confusing, but it keeps a separation of powers in the government. The system of how branches of the government can check each other and keep a balance of power is called checks and balances. The President also appoints or chooses people who help him or her make decisions. These people make up the cabinet. The Senate approves the cabinet members as part of the government's checks and balances. The President acts as the commander-in-chief who leads the armed forces and meets with leaders from other countries to discuss problems. The President and Vice President are the only governmental leaders who are elected by the entire country. They are elected every 4 years. But the President can only serve 2 terms for a total of 8 years. What is the judicial branch? The court system makes up the judicial branch. Courts decide arguments about the meaning of laws and decide whether laws go against the Constitution. The U.S. Supreme Court is the highest court, and its decisions guide the other courts in the country. There are 9 justices, or judges, of the U.S. Supreme Court, and they are appointed by the President and approved by the Senate. The justices serve for life until they decide to step down, or if Congress votes to remove them. So, the legislative branch creates laws, the executive branch carries out the laws, and the judicial branch interprets laws and explains the meaning of them. Each branch checks each other to make sure there's a balance of power. So, one person can't just make a new law or change the Constitution. A lot of people have to work together. What? You changed the Constitution? Every day shall be ice cream day. Moby, did Congress pass this?
Okay, now time for our activity. These are the supplies that you'll need. You'll need a piece of paper, something to write with, and scissors. So you can pause the video and go get the supplies that you need. The first thing we're going to do is put our paper so it's long ways is going up and down so that it is vertical. Then we're going to fold our paper in half. So like this. And then we're going to try to eyeball, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, eyeball where 3 sections would be. And we're going to cut those sections only to the folded line. So here's 1 and 2. So we only need to cut 2 lines so that we have 3 sections for the 3 branches of government. So you can tell mine are not exactly perfect, and that is okay. Next, we are going to write the name of our 3 branches on our front of our flaps. We're making like a little flip book. Right. So over here, we have judicial. We'll write that big on the front. J-U-D-I-A-L. That's our first one. Then we have executive. E-T-I-V-E. E-X-E-C-U-T-I-V-E. Perfect. And then the very last one we have is the legislative branch. L-E-G-S-L-A-T branch. Okay, so now we have these 3 tabs, flaps, with the names underneath. So what your assignment is to tell me, just like what it says up here, you'll be able to name the 3 branches, so we just named them on the front, and tell me what their job is. So you're going to tell me what the job of each branch is, and if you want to challenge yourself, you can even tell me who's in charge of that branch. So you tell me the job, and if you find that to be pretty easy and you have a good understanding of what their job is, you can challenge yourself and tell me who leads that branch. Do you remember who leads the executive branch? That's an easy one to remember. That's the president and the vice president lead the executive branch. So for every flap, you will have your answers underneath. You will need to upload a picture of the inside of your flap. Your teacher will just have to trust that you labeled the outside correctly, and you will upload a picture of the inside of your pamphlet onto your class dojo. And later in this week, we'll be learning more about the branches of government. So if right now it seems still a little confusing, that's okay. It's even confusing for grown-ups. So we are going to learn more about that this week. All right, I'll see you all later.